Senate Bill 610 by Senator Pan, an act relating to Medi-Cal.
Senator Pan.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I present to you Senate Bill 610, which requires the Department of Health Care Services to finalize a new reimbursement rate and to complete annual reconciliations for federally qualified health centers, FQHCs, or rural health centers within specified timelines. Currently, there are no timelines that requires the Department of Health Care Services to finalize reimbursement rates or annual reconciliations for these clinics that provide vital services. This has resulted in the Department of Health Care Services taking approximately 5 years to finalize a new rate and approximately 3 years to finalize reconciliation, which has resulted in the state owing nearly $50 million to our community clinics. SB 610 is not requiring the state to do anything new, but simply holding the department accountable for the money they owe these clinics so that these clinics can continue to ensure access to quality care for often the most vulnerable in our communities. This bill has bipartisan support and no opposition. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Pan. Any debate or discussion? Seeing none, members, is there any objection to using our unanimous roll call? Seeing none, ayes 36, no 0, measure passes. Members, we'll move forward to item 134, not at her desk. File item 135, Senator Allen. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 613 by Senator Allen, an act relating to dementia.
Senator Allen.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, members, and thanks for this honor presenting SB 613, which updates the physician's guidelines for Alzheimer's care. We've talked a little bit about how a lot of you know that my father has polio. This legislation is actually inspired by my grandfather, who has Alzheimer's. We were a veritable disease-ridden family, but a righteous family nonetheless. It's estimated that 590,000 Californians have Alzheimer's disease. It's a complex, costly, and continuous disease that rages in its victims for 7 to 10 years. There's no cure, as we know. 7 years ago, the Department of Public Health released guidelines which have helped physicians and patients across the country. These guidelines equip California's primary care physicians with up-to-date patient information and resources to better serve patients with dementia. Now, we've had changes in our healthcare system, as everybody knows, the Affordable Care Act, some major changes to Medi-Cal, and this legislation simply would update the guidelines for care of dementia and Alzheimer's care with those changes in mind. So for those reasons, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Allen. Members, any debate or discussion? Seeing none. Members, any objection to a unanimous roll call? Seeing none, ayes 37, no 0, measure passes. File item 137, Senator Hertzberg. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 621 by Senator Hertzberg, an act relating to mentally ill criminal offenders.
Senator Hertzberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last year, this legislative body made the important move to reestablish the Mentally Ill Offender Crime Reduction Grant Program. This approach, as many members know, allows people with mental illness to access valuable resources to address their specific needs. Los Angeles County that I represent, unfortunately is considered the largest mental health facility in the country, our jails. But it's wrong to take people with mental health needs to jail as a first option. This bill, with the support of the incredibly talented Los Angeles District Attorney Jackie Lee Lacey, clarifies that funds in the Mentally Ill Offenders Crime Grant Program also apply to diversion for these mentally ill patients who are in jail. Ask for your support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hertzberg. Members, any debate or discussion? Seeing none. Members, is there any objection to using our unanimous roll call? Seeing none. Ayes 37, no 0. Measure passes. We're now going to move back to file item 134. Senator Jackson, Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 612 by Senator Jackson, an act relating to hazardous materials.
Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. SB 612 is a technical bill that will bring clarity and consistency to provisions of the Health and Safety Code that deal with a number of programs overseen by CUPAs, which are Certified Unified Program Agencies. These proposed changes have been identified by a working group of CUPAs with the input from the stakeholders who have to comply with the provisions of these health and safety code ideas, concepts, requirements. For example, the bill would provide clear authority for CUPAs to inspect and regulate used oil collection centers and close gaps and harmonize the relationship between the Above-Ground Petroleum Storage Act, the Underground Storage Act, and the Hazardous Waste Control Act. All fascinating stuff, but there are folks out there actually who are committed to making sure that we bring everybody to the table and come up with regulations that are consistent and that are acceptable to all the parties. This measure will enhance program compliance for regulated businesses and ensure that the programs modified by this bill run efficiently and effectively while maintaining public health, safety, and environmental protections. There is no opposition to this bill. It has received no votes, and I would respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Jackson. Members, any debate or discussion? Seeing none. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. I. Anderson. I. Bates. I. Bell. I. Berryhill. I. Block. I. Cannella. I. DeLeon. I. Fuller. I. Gaines.
Aye.
I. Galgiani. I. Glazer. I. Hall. I. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. Hill. I. Wesso. I. Huff. I. Jackson. I. Lada. Leno. Leyva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. Mitchell. Monning. I. Morlock. I. Morrell. I. Wynn. I. Nielsen. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. I. Stone. I. Vidak. I. Wykowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Secretary, call the absent members.
Hertzberg. Aye. Lada. Leno. Mendoza. Mitchell. Nielsen.
Ayes 35, no 0. Measure passes. Next file item is 139. Senator Jackson. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 646 by Senator Jackson, an act relating to family support.
Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. This measure is a federal compliance measure sponsored by the California Department of Child Support Services. It will bring the state statute into alignment with the recently reauthorized Federal Uniform Interstate Support Act. The bottom line is, unless we are in compliance, we will lose out on $600 million in federal funds to enforce our child support laws. We all know that this is critically important, as it has been such a challenge for years for California to be in compliance and to receive these funds so we can make sure all of our children receive the support to which they are entitled. I would ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Jackson. Members, any debate or discussion? Seeing none. Members, is there any objection to using our unanimous roll call? Seeing none. Ayes 37, no 0. Measure passes. Members, we're going to move to file item 142, Senator De Leon. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 674 by Senator De Leon, an act relating to victims of crime.
Senator De Leon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, SB 674 for the opportunity to present this measure. I'm a joint author of this measure, the Immigrant Victims of Crime Equity Act, along with our Speaker Tony Atkins. The Victim of Crime visa, also referred to as the U visa, is available to immigrants who are victims of crimes, of certain crimes committed in the United States: rape, incest, sexual assault, torture, or domestic violence For example, the bearer of a U visa gets relief from deportation and permission to work in the United States. Federal immigration authorities make the determination of whether a victim of a crime actually qualifies for a U visa. However, the state and local governments play a very important role in this process. In order for the victim to apply to the federal government for the U visa, the victim must receive a certification from a law enforcement, a prosecutor, or a judicial officer. The document certifies that the individual was in fact a victim of a qualifying crime, and the certification must state that the victim was helpful or likely to be helpful in the prosecution or investigation of the crime. There are some local agencies in California that do an exemplary job in terms of granting the certifications. For example, in Alameda County, the Oakland Police Department, as well as the LAPD, as well as the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office. But unfortunately, there are other agencies in the state of California that systematically deny certification based on the basis of political views on the issue of immigration. They're making determination of whether one belongs in this country or not, irrespective of the crime that has been committed against an immigrant because of the subjective views on this issue. This bill makes it very clear that all entities that can certify victims' helpfulness must certify victim helplessness of the victim during the course of these, again, qualifying crimes. There are entities, again, that no longer will be eligible to subjectively make a determination. That is for the federal government to do so. Whether a victim is a victim of a crime, either in Kern County or Alameda County, their status should not matter whether they obtain a U visa. This bill brings equity to immigrant victims of crime. The California Partnership to End Domestic Violence, as well as the Chief Law Enforcement of the State of California, our Attorney General, are in support of this measure. In the Public Safety Committee, Mr. President, there was no votes, and there's been no opposition to this measure.
Great. Thank you, Senator De Leon. Members, any debate or discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. I. Anderson. Bates. I. Bell. I. Berryhill. I. Block. I. Cannella. I. De Leon. Fuller. I. Gaines.
Aye.
I. Galgiani. I. Glazer. I. Hall. I. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. I. Hill. I. Hueso. Huff. Jackson. I. Lada. Leno. Leyva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. I. Mitchell. Monning. I. Morlock. I. Morrell. Wynn. I. Nilsson. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. I. Stone. I. Vidak. I. Wachowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Secretary, call the absent members.
Anderson. I. De Leon. I. Hueso. Huff. Lada. Leno. Mitchell. Morrell. Nilsson. Nilsson, aye. Morrell, aye.
Ayes 35, no 0. Measure passes. Members, let's move to file item 143. Senator Hill. Pass on file. File item 145. Senator Pan. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 686 by Senator Pan, enacting to public post-secondary education.
Senator Pan.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. I present to you SB 686, which simply grants full collective bargaining rights to supervisory employees who are sworn peace officers employed by the University of California or Hastings College of Law. The UC and Hastings peace officers play a key role in protecting our UC campuses, but currently do not have collective bargaining rights under the Higher Education Employer-Employee Relations Act, which will allow them to fairly negotiate the terms of their employment, such as their wages, hours, health care, and other working conditions. The decision not to grant peace officers collective bargaining rights is based off of an outdated decision made in 1983 by the Public Employment Relations Board, who felt that UC supervisory peace officers did not have substantially similar duties to their subordinates. UC peace officers, on the other hand, were allowed to keep their collective bargaining rights. Today, the UC and Hastings peace officers run similarly to the CSU peace officers, which makes it seem unfair to prevent UC and Hastings peace officers from adequately representing themselves and negotiating the terms of their employments. The UC and Hastings peace officers protect our campuses and deserve the right to collective bargaining. There's no opposition to the bill, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Pan. Members, any debate or discussion? Senator Fuller.
I just need to note that I voted for this in committee because I was under the impression that the regents have the final determination. So I'd like to ask the author, do the regents have the final determination?
Senator Pan, do you accept a question
Yes.
from? Right.
So even if we vote for this, it doesn't mean that it's automatic.
So basically, the HERA statute that I referred to is binding on the UC system. So basically, that they would then have the option to, they would not automatically have, but they would have the option to apply for, through the existing labor laws, through HERA, to be able to secure collective bargaining rights. Peace officers.
Okay, I will be changing my vote on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Fuller. Members, any further debate or discussion? Seeing none, Senator Pan, you may close.
I respectfully ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Anderson? No. Bates? No. Bell? Aye. Berryhill? No. Block? Aye. Canella? Aye. De Leon? Fuller? No. Gaines?
No.
No. Galgiani? Aye. Glazer? Hall? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hertzberg? Aye. Hill? Aye. Wisso? Huff? No. Jackson? Aye. Lada? Leno? Leyva? Aye. Liu? Aye. McGuire? Aye. Mendoza? Aye. Mitchell? Monning? Aye. Morlock? No. Morrell? No. Wynn? No. Nielsen? No. Pan? Aye. Pavley? Roth? Aye. Runner? No. Stone? Vidak? No. Wykowski? Aye. Wolk?
Secretary, call the absent members.
Wolk, aye. Allen? De Leon? Aye. Glazer? Hueso? Lada? Leno? Mitchell? Pavley? Aye. Stone? No.
Ayes 21, noes 13. Measure passes. Members, we'll move to file item 147. Senator De Leon, would you like to bring this forward? Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 695 by Senator De Leon, an act relating to school curriculum.
Senator De Leon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I'm pleased to present SB 695, which I am jointly authoring with my colleague from Santa Barbara. This bill represents the next step in the fight to change behavior toward women, particularly young women. Between 1995 and 2013, the highest rate of rape and sexual assault victimizations affected females between the ages of 18 and 24. With the passage of SB 967 last year in 2014, which established an affirmative consent standard, the first application of the Yes Means Yes in the nation, California took steps to aid college-age women in addressing the issue of sexual assaults and rape and violence on college campuses. However, we cannot be satisfied with the implementation of SB 697 alone. Instead, California must continue to lead the nation in educating our young people, both women as well as young men, about the importance of respect and maintaining healthy peer and dating relationships. Given the statistics regarding the victimization of women between the ages of 18 and 24, high school students are the most vulnerable population, and the importance of educating them early on regarding these issues is paramount to reducing the number of sexual assaults. The first time young women and men are exposed to formal information about developing healthy peer or dating relationships and the perils and consequences of sexual harassment and/or violence should not be in a college setting. Instead, high school curriculum should include this information and provide secondary teachers as well as administrators with quality information to educate our young adults. So, what does SB 695 do? It requires a health education class needed for graduation to include information about yes means yes, the affirmative consent standard. It also requires the Instructional Quality Commission to include information on sexual harassment and violence at its next revision of the health framework as specified. As a father of a daughter, I teach my child about the importance of respect and maintaining healthy relationships. But all parents of teenagers know they are outside influences on our young men and women. That is our reality that we cannot control. We try to the best of our ability. So as a father, obviously I do my part to the best of my ability, but I think it's important that we teach young men in particular at the high school level to respect healthy peers, relationships, dating relationships, and what it means. This does not start in high school. This on the college, I should say. This starts in high school or sometimes even before that. Please join me, colleagues, and along with our senator from the Central Coast, from Santa Barbara, and countless other supporters, the California Association Against Sexual Assaults, the California State PTA, and the California Teachers Association in advocating to reduce the incidence of sexual harassment and violence through the education of our youth. With that, I respectfully ask for an aye vote. And with that, this is a bipartisan measure. In previous policy committee votes, we've had Republicans as well as Democrats come together. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator De Leon. Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. And colleagues, I stand in strong and proud support of this measure, and I want to thank Senator De Leon for continuing to pursue this whole issue about healthy relationships between men and women, boys and girls, young men, young women, as we work through our societal challenges associated with relationships, with the amount of exposure that young people have as they're growing up to things that don't necessarily lead to the kind of respect and appreciation that we should have for one another. And it was very clear last year after the Yes Means Yes legislation passed to identify problems of sexual assault on college campuses that this issue really needs to be addressed at a far earlier age, and certainly going down the scale, if you will, now to the high school level, to teach healthy, respectful relationships is going to make an extraordinary difference with our young people, not only when they get on to college, if they go to college, but within their academic careers. Being able to talk freely and respectfully to each other is going to have, I think, a very positive impact on a phenomena that we are experiencing in our society today that is almost hard to believe, and that is a culture of bullying and cyberbullying that is taking place as part of the internet world, where anonymity creates the opportunity for people to be not only mean-spirited, but in many instances incredibly destructive to other human beings. And by teaching healthy relationships, by reaffirming what we hope we as parents teach our children, but heavens, there's so much that goes on the internet today that I suspect most of us haven't got a clue about. It's really important that when we get these children into those health classes, we talk to them about the importance of mental health and physical health and respecting each other, and how that is something that is going to benefit them in their academic careers as well as in life in general. And we certainly know that here on this floor when we work with each other. We are far more successful and productive when we treat each other with dignity and respect. It's something that our young people need to have reinforced. This is a bill that really addresses it at, I think, a critical point in health classes for those schools that provide them. This is something that I think is long overdue, and I'm reminded of a hearing that we did last year to learn that that in some of our most advanced high schools, the behavior, the kind of harassment that goes on is so extraordinary that, but it isn't extraordinary at all, actually. It's happening throughout our state. It's something we need to address and change, and with that, I would ask for your aye vote, and again, thank Senator DeLeon for his long-term commitment to this issue.
Thank you, Senator Jackson. Members, any further debate or discussion? Senator DeLeon, would you like to close?
Thank you, Madam Senator. My colleague from Santa Barbara, Mr. President, I respectfully ask for an aye vote on this great bipartisan measure. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Let's see, we can go unanimous roll call.
Yes.
Members, any objection to a unanimous roll call? Seeing none, ayes 37, no 0, measure passes. Members, looking at file item 148, Senator Roth. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 696 by Senator Roth, an act relating to insurance.
Senator Roth.